Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today we have the Buck Marksman Gray Ghost from SK Blades, Silver Knights Blades, if you want to use their full Christian name, I guess. I guess to call it. Very cool knife. I love the Marksman. I make no bones about that. I owned one for a bit. I'm going to link to the review of that at the end of this. You can go back and watch that if you want to know more about the Marksman and things about it. Very slick knife with a very cool feature. It is a collaboration with a G&G Hawk, Grant and Gavin Hawk, and they do this cool SLS lock, they call it. It's kind of a strap lock thing, and it's just super awesome. But SK Blades does cool stuff with Buck where they do higher end versions of regular Buck knives. The Buck makes them, and they do commissions. And this one, the difference between this and a standard Marksman, S35 VN steel, upgraded from 154 cm, and a G10 handle, which is great. And it also cuts a lot of weight off. Instead of the usual, 4.3 ounces that the original one weighs, this one is only 3.6. And for a full 3.5-inch blade, that's pretty darn good. It comes in a couple different versions. This is the Gray Ghost. They also have one called the Inferno. The Inferno is orange scales with a blackwash blade. I much prefer this version. And Gray Ghost is just a cool name for it. It sounds like a baddie from a Scooby-Doo show. It was Mr. Winters all along. But it's a very cool knife. And I'm glad to have got my hands on it because it was good timing. I did trade with this for somebody else. So how SK Blades works is they do short little runs, and they're available, and then they're not, and then they are again. And I kept missing out on the Gray Ghost. I did a little trade with... thank you very much, Perry, for doing this. I did a little trade with him, and coincidentally, they're going to be available on SK Blades' website any day now. Of the time that I'm posting this, which is May 3rd. Any day now, they're going to be available. There was a slight delay from Buck for SK Blades getting them, so not their fault, but it should be available like early next week. So keep an eye out if you like this and you want to get it. 124. What I want to make sure I get everything exactly right. Yeah, $124.99 for this version. The regular Marksman is only $10 cheaper, and for that extra $10, you're getting nicely done G10 S35 VN instead of 154 cm. Definitely worth the $10 if you can get your hands on one. Regular Marksman is cool, but definitely grab one of these if you can. We're going to do a full review of this because they do come and go. If on SK Blades, if you miss something, wait, they're probably going to bring it back. They're not usually one and dones. They do usually come back. So this isn't just a completely useless, review for historical purposes. Sometimes I review knives that you can't get anymore. But this is something you're going to be able to get if you're patient. And as I said, I do love the Marksman. I love that lock. I like the way it looks. This G10 I think looks a lot better than the aluminum, and it's going to hold up better than the aluminum. The aluminum always does scuff up. That's just the nature of aluminum scales. They always do that, especially if you hard use them. You do have instead of on the aluminum version, I'm sorry I don't have it here. You normally have just a plain stainless. This is kind of this black wash thing, and it does seem to have knocked a bit of the hard edges off up here. That's one of the complaints I had about the original with the Jimping. It was a little sharp. This one's not sharp at all. It's completely fine. It's just enough to use it, but it's not crazy. The only thing I don't like about the looks, and I do wish SK Blades got rid of this, if you just have that giant Buck USA, I don't like that. I didn't like it on the original Marksman. My feelings have not changed here. I don't mind this stuff. The Boss Heat Treat is awesome. He does an amazing job, and that is something to brag about. A Buck does that with a lot of their blade steel. And that's one thing about Buck. You get that Boss Heat Treat, and it does usually make it just a little bit better than it normally is. So it's Boss S35 VN. Edge retention on this seems to be amazing. I haven't had it for a long time, so I haven't really beaten it up. But it seems to be pretty good. And the G&G Hawk collaboration that's cool too. I don't mind this billboarding because those are things worth bragging about. I don't know, that Buck USA I just think is a bit big. But other than that, I think it looks great. I like the blacked out hardware and stuff. It just looks very purposeful, and it is. It's a very good purposeful EDC knife, even though it does have kind of a unique lock system. That unique lock system is not a gimmick. It actually is very useful and very cool. And we will talk more about that shortly. Let's do some stats and some size comparisons before we get too much farther. You have an overall length of 8 1/4 inches, blade length of dead on 3.5, blade thickness just a little bit less than 0.12 inches, handle thickness 0.48, and as I said, the weight on this 3.6 ounces. The regular Marksman is 4.3, so you're losing quite a bit of weight going to this G10. Size comparisons, as you will see, we put it in our usual Spyderco sandwich. We have our Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3, trying to line the pivots up. You can see it's about the size of the PM2. It is definitely a full-size knife, but it's not crazy huge. It's just kind of your normal full-size EDC knife. And we'll do 2 more really quick. I'm not going to keep you here forever because I have already mostly reviewed the Marksman. This is mostly just talking about the changes, but you have your Ontario Rat Model 2 and the Model 1. It's a little bit smaller than the Model 1, which this is definitely a very full-size EDC knife. So you can see just a little bit shorter. All right, let's talk more about the specifics of this. As I said, S35VN, one of my favorite steels, so I'm very, very happy to see that on here. And with the Boss Heat Treat, I'm really excited to put this through more time and see if he makes it better than your average S35VN. But so far, every buck I've had with that Boss Heat Treat has outperformed what I thought it would, so I have no reason to think that it won't. It's not terribly thin behind the edge, 24 thousandths behind the edge. When this first came out a few years ago, when the Marksman first came out, that was pretty thin behind the edge, but the trend now is to do even thinner than that. It is a nice hollow grind, though, and it is a fairly thin blade stock. I found it to be quite an excellent slicer. The stock edge out of the box is very, very good. As I said, this is a secondhand knife, but I know he didn't sharpen it or anything, so I know it's just this. And as far as I could tell, this thing has not been used a bit, but it's been very, very good. Nice, good tip on the blade. It's a very good EDC blade shape. It genuinely is, and just kind of your simple drop point. Really good steel. Excellent. Can't complain about that. Ergonomics, also nothing to complain about. Nice deep carry pocket clip, which does not cause a hot spot at all. You have one of the nice things about this SLS lock or strap lock, whatever you want to call it, is it's such a nice, good flat spot for your thumb to rest. It works extremely well, and this G10 is nicer than the aluminum. It just feels nicer in your hand. I don't have a big problem with the standard Marksman either, but this one is just that little bit better. I do have to say it's pretty slick G10. It's almost not quite what you'd call a polish, but you're locked in this pretty good. It's not a big deal. And what I found is when you really want to do more, I think I said this in the original Marksman review, if you're really pushing forward on something, you want a bit more traction, you have all this nice jimping on the side that you can just kind of rotate your thumb to the side and get yourself a little bit more traction, which is super handy. I really do like that about it. Yeah, ergonomically, it's excellent. It's for my large size hands with skinny fingers. It's very, very, very good. As far as how it carries, bring out ye old Wranglers. Does have a flipper tab, but barely. We'll get to that in a moment. And it's got this nice deep carry clip, very deep carry clip, which is reversible, and it just drops in the pocket. It does have that Buck logo on it, the anvil that I think looks like a weird state, but it's very subdued. You can hardly even see it, and when you put your hands in your pocket, there's nothing to really catch. That flipper tab is not even noticeable. Yeah, the jimping on the strap lock, yeah, you can feel it, I guess, but on this particular version, on the Gray Ghosts, it's not quite as sharp as it was on the standard one. I think part of that, because this is kind of has that black wash finish, and I think putting it through that black wash just knocked off the edges just the right amount to where now it's there. It's plain enough to grab, but it's not super sharp. On the original Marksman, I think I said that it was a bit sharp. This isn't. As far as the action goes, it is awesome but unique. So if you're, I think it's kind of I think most people really like it. I know most people I know who've held a Marksman love the action on it, but it is a bit unique. There is no detent as conventionally described. Everything is just held on by this strap lock on the back here, but it rockets right out. And as you can see, it drops shut like nobody's business, like nobody business. It just totally drops. You can spider flick it, all those things. I just screwed it up there because I bumped my camera. Yeah, you can slow roll it this way too if you don't want to make a lot of noise, because this is a loud knife. Yeah, that's a loud snap when you're opening it amongst, civilians. You got to keep that in mind. But as I said, there's a detent, but it's not, the normal detent ball kind of system. So you can shake it out. So that's something to keep in mind. I did have to flick it just pretty hard to do that. It is adjustable. Zelric, I'll try to remember to link to that also at the end. He does a great video. When the Marksman first came out a couple years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago, he did some great videos about how to adjust it. It is adjustable detent. You just loosen these 2 screws, these 2 little Allen keys, and then there's another tinier little Allen key in the back here, and you can adjust this strap lock back and forth. I have this dialed in exactly where I want it. It is fiddly. It is something that, don't think it's going to be something you're going to adjust in 2 minutes as you're walking out the door. It is something that it takes a few shots to get it right, at least for me. But as this wears in, you can adjust it to tighten it up, which is really nice. So that will increase the longevity of the knife. So that's a very, very cool thing they came up with there. That the Hawk brothers, are they father and son or brothers? I don't remember. That G&G Hawk came up with. Overall, I love the Marksman, and this is the best version of the Marksman you can get. So what can I say bad about it? I mean, it's $124. Even if you're just evaluating it by material, if you're just looking at it on paper, it's still a really good value. S35 VN, G10, it's fairly unique. Even on paper, it's a good value, and I think once you get it in hand, it's even better. And if you just want something with a unique lock that nobody else uses, I just think, and the Marksman is just such a fidget factor fun knife. It's just fun to sit and play with. It's always been one of my favorite knives to fiddle with, and now it's just even better with the G10 and the S35 VN. So keep an eye out the next few days. I'm putting this up, I think, May 3rd, 2019. Keep an eye out if you want to grab one. They should be available and imminently. So keep an eye out on SK Blade's website and check them out. And check out their other stuff too. They do lots of really cool stuff. I think they did a 20 CV buck 110 once. They do a lot of really cool, awesome stuff. So mostly all bucks. But go check them out. I've been Brian. Have a good one.